Matty, last week I was Brendan McManus because my team was totally anus. This week I'm Tyler Bass because I was kicking Aussie analyst ass. Let's fucking go.
And just like the refs with their flag at their hips, I want to win some championships.
I am on the eucalyptus throat lozenge drops.
Butter my biscuit. I'm happier in a tornado in a trailer park. Let's roll.
Butter my biscuits. Butter my biscuits.
If I was English, I would have taken the moral victory, but I'm Australian, so there's no moral victories here.
My fantasy team's going to kick you guys in the butt, cup.
Take me down to Brown Town.
Take me down to Brown Town.
How are you not positive when you kissed on the dick by a leprechaun?
Have you ever been kissed on the dick by a leprechaun before?
My dick doesn't hang that low to be kissed on a dick by a leprechaun.
Mom, get out of my room.
Australia's undisputed #1 NFL fantasy show is back. This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show, and we've returned with thanks to the home of Gridiron in Australia, the Aussie Gridiron Network. My name is Matty C, and with me tonight is Australia's most famous and most brilliant fantasy football analyst, and Taylor Goodall. How are you, mate?
Oh, mate, what a great entrance. Look, Matty C, like we had a flea on our pee-pee, we're here to scratch that itch. Let's get into it.
The rhymes continue. Oh, you're going to be happy with me later, mate.
Definitely in May form right now, mate. Don't worry, those will be those will be tip top by the time we start.
Okay, good to know. What we really need to do in the off season too is run an NRL one, so we can try and keep the form up, I guess. Because I know what you mean. Something's coming easier by week 12, don't they?
Yeah, next year.
Well, mate, there is plenty to talk about because, mate, we got back together recently so we could talk about a whole bunch of the guys who moved teams for whatever reason and the impacts they were going to have. And now this is the next part of that evolution of off-season for NFL teams as they introduce the new blood, the fresh fish. And tonight, that's what we're going to address. We talk rookies. They've taken loads of headlines in the last 6 weeks in NFL land. Tay, I don't know what your Twitter feed or any of these other media platforms that you sort of use to mine and source your information. But it's just been a flutter in the last 6 weeks with all these guys, the college prospects heading into the NFL draft. Anything that really stood out to you about this upcoming draft class now coming into the NFL?
Mate, it was hard to focus on anything else but fucking Shedeur Sanders. It was just, we were just getting absolutely fed. There was one page that was I think it was someone had brought up the Cleveland Browns Instagram, and it was how good would it be being one of the other 7-8 guys being drafted and then looking at their page and their last 12 reels or 12 posts were all about their 6th round pick. It's they even had a quarterback go in front of him in the draft. It honestly felt like it was Sanders mania the entire time, and we're talking about a guy that went in bloody day 3, at the back of the end of the 3. It's unbelievable. I'm sure it'll be humbling for him, but it's hard not to see that it was as the main attraction of the rookies. Not that it's going to be redraft relevant at all, but it felt like in terms of relevancy of what we were watching, that's all that was out there. It was just everyone just waiting with bated breath to see where he was actually going to fall to. Even my wife was even talking to me about it because she was having a laugh at me because I'm sitting there on my phone looking at the NFL draft, and I mentioned to her about this quarterback that is falling, and then all of a sudden, when it's getting later and later, she's asking me questions that she never would have asked in the past about where's that quarterback going? Is he gone yet? And so that was pretty funny. But in terms of anything else, there was definitely some interesting landing spots, and definitely some guys in fantasy relevant positions go quite early in the draft. So there's definitely some special talent and definitely some guys that we'll be interested in looking at, because honestly, over the last few years in redraft, it's kind of got the rookies have been more and more relevant quicker. Normally, we've had to wait on these guys for a long, long time, but you've seen some tight end breakouts. You've seen wide receiver breakouts early. The running backs have actually been, to be honest, they've been strong for a while. But honestly, the other positions have picked up. And running backs just kind of most years outside of probably last year have had a few good running backs that are rookies. So I'm looking forward to seeing this crop.
Do you remember when teams used to do things like draft, I don't know, a little unknown running back from Alabama name like Derrick Henry, and then just kind of sit him behind some veteran for 2 or 3 years. And then just as he's on the edge of running out of his rookie deal, they'll give him the start, and then he just tears up the league for 10 years. Like, that's not how it works anymore. You do really have to pay attention because these guys are getting on the field sooner. They're having more impact. And I mean, we're a stats-driven game. Fantasy football is about people who get opportunity, and the rookies get more run now than they used to. So all those ring true for me. The other thing I found was interesting in the draft, though, too, just quickly, running back to your Shedeur Sanders story, was how many people were talking about Mel Kiper and how he was just further and further degenerating into a mental health episode while Shedeur Sanders was still not getting drafted. That was the other kind of big headline that was coming across to me through X as well.
And he just got to get digging his hole further and further. And then even after the draft, he gives out like all his grades, and it's like Cleveland Browns A++ because they got Sanders at such a good value. It's like even at the end of the day, he couldn't even like bring up anything else but Sanders. This guy that, like I said, it's near the end of day 3 in the draft, but apparently he was the Browns were the big winners because they got him. Fucking dude.
Mate, I cannot wait to see them top that division this year. It's going to make all the difference having this 5th round quarterback who doesn't see the field a lot. So
yeah, Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, that's right. They've got more quarterbacks and they're going to have roster spots too. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up making the team there. But that's a chat for another day. One thing that is kind of tough about this part of the season now is there's this weird general kind of malaise, I guess, that happens while the rookies get acclimated to their new surroundings. They're joined by the 90 extra free agents that teams all sign, and all the UDFAs, undrafted free agents who are then available to anyone after the draft to help fill out this great big off-season roster. And then as we get through the off-season, the round of cuts get made where then people end up on practice squads, people get cut by one team, end up on other teams. All that is ahead of us. But this weird period now after the draft, yeah, there's a bit to talk about, but we're not going to see a lot of on-field action for a lot of these guys. There will be talk about people through rookie camps and that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting. It'll be super interesting. But what we're going to do tonight is we're going to assess where people have landed on that full range of outcomes. The outcomes of this guy could be an immediate fantasy star to, hey, this is a guy who you don't need to know about immediately because he'll sit around on waivers for 6 weeks, but just make sure you have his name written down because he could be something. So that's kind of the spectrum. And we've got people from all parts of that tonight. We're going to cover sort of roughly a dozen of the rookies we think are going to have the biggest impact and that you need to know about.
Yeah, we really wanted to get to the nitty-gritty of the guys that we really feel are a chance of being, relevant, pretty quickly. Like, we didn't want to go too in-depth. Like I said, it's wanted to be a quick, sharp, sort of hour-ish show, and we don't want to be sitting there and just delving in too deep about some of the guys that might be like a 5% chance of hitting this year. Like, we might dive into some of that stuff a little bit later, but right now it's really just getting a gut feel on, roughly 12 guys that we feel like are a big chance of actually starting and hitting the ground running for redraft that you can look at in your drafts coming up.
We're looking at it too through that prism of most people are going to be in 10-team leagues generally, and they will either be 1 or 2 quarterback. And that's kind of the bounds that most people play their fantasy football in. So we want to try and provide the information in that prism. Kay, before we get into it, I've got 2 questions for you. Yes. There's no 5 questions from 2 dickheads. There's no mailbag.
Oh, no.
2 questions from this dickhead. First one, are we likely to have any guests at any stage in the 2025 season, do you think? We had such a great year of it last year.
Mate, absolutely. Like I said, we're basically going to have everyone we had on last year. Everyone seems to be chomping at the bit to get on again. But we've definitely had a couple more guys interested that have already jumped into our group chat. And then I'm also going to put a bit of a message out to people to say, like, do they have like one friend they could maybe bring so we can branch our sort of inner sanctum a little bit more. So there could even be a point where we may actually have 2 people on per show. So I would say at a bare minimum, we're going to have 1 guest on every show again this year. So obviously our starts of the week's going to be great. We're going to have the world team up again. And it's going to be a great year.
It'll be so good. I'm glad I asked because, mate, we've been... That chat group through this entire off-season too has been fire, absolute fire.
NBA or maybe we might even talk some politics. We will talk anything.
Pretty sure there was some union in there the other day. There's a lot going on in there. There's a fair bit. But this is great. Like, the more people who can identify themselves to us, we'd like to try and get people into the community too, because we think fantasy football is something that should be really accessible, and it should be a community where you can get to meet good people, and where people grow their knowledge and get to enjoy the game more.
Yep, absolutely. And mate, we'll chat. We'll chat anything. There's no off season for us with that group chat. You know, obviously it slows down a little bit when it's not in the nitty gritty of the actual fantasy season for NFL. But there's always some kind of sport we're all chatting about in there. So that's great. Just like-minded people, Aussies, having to chat about NFL or any sport. It's great, mate. We want to keep it going and keep building.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, second question for you, Tay. I don't know if you'll remember this because you're not as old as me, but do you happen to remember who won Starts of the Week last year?
Oh, no. You know what? I'll just say yes, it was you, just so you don't get to actually announce that.
Well, I've brought the bronze lady into the studio tonight. I've adorned her with googly eyes because I feel like that makes her look much more approachable. You had her looking really stum and sad, but mate, she's taken a little bit of a glow up. So there you go.
Are we talking about shitty regular season or the playoffs that mattered? I believe someone else actually won the playoffs one.
Was that you?
Yeah, mate. I won the World Cup. You won the Bledisloe.
I thought Brad won it. Okay. All right. The trophy for that, by the way, I don't think there is a trophy for that.
You already gave me the trophy.
Is that where it went? There you go. I thought I binned it because I'm like, oh, fuck, I didn't win this. Get out of here.
Nah, you gave it to me like I was there, mate.
Mate, you need to put googly eyes on that too, because I tell you what, it's a lot of fun putting googly eyes on stuff. That's my side note done. Mate, let's rip and tear into it. We've got 5 receivers, 4 running backs, 2 tight ends, a quarterback, a partridge in a pear tree coming up.
And the pear tree is at least running back 1 this year.
Stay with us.
G'day, Gridiron.
Anyone that hasn't joined us before, it's pretty simple. Let's kick it off, eh? Is everyone ready?
The 4 horsemen of NFL in Australia.
If the sound ever plays, the pick is officially in.
Nick the lineman.
So it's the worst against any team, and it's also the worst passer rating that he has against any team at 66.3.
Brad the coach.
The Steelers have held the Ravens under 20 points in 7 straight games.
Isaac the analyst.
For this one, I couldn't understand it either. I don't think they're making the playoffs.
Ian the Viking.
Full of passion, full of fight. They might genuinely be interesting to watch again.
Previews, overreactions, and bloody best bets.
If Derrick Henry can get rolling, then I think it's no contest. The Ravens are going to win.
As a fan of the NFL, you hope he comes back because he's just an absolute beast when he gets on there.
That would be able to give, at least Justin Fields a chance to be able to build.
Let's move on after that insanity.
So I just think, though, it's going to stop here.
Defensively for the Bills, I don't think that's actually going to combat what the Chiefs do already.
Yeah, I guarantee you, Pete would get down on his knees for that.
G'day, Gridiron.
I love spreadsheets. I'm a spreadsheet man.
I love spreading my legs.
Twice a week, all season long on the Aussie Gridiron Network.
We're going to kick it off with running backs. I'm not going to beat around the old running back Reggie Bush, but there were 4 running backs that we thought who were drafted this year that you need to at least, if nothing else, know their names, and some you need to know more than that. The order which we go through these will either generally be the order they're drafted in can often lead to how relevant they're going to be, but we're really going to try and look at them generally in how valuable we think they are now at their position. The running back who we think has probably got the clearest line to the most work right now might not be surprising. It's Ashton Jeanty. Tay, you actually have come in with a nice little nameplate on your Zoom handle tonight about Ashton Jeanty. Do you want to tell the nice people out there what you've done?
Yeah, in a normal Taylor fashion. I'm sure everyone expects a really, really normal, not crude name that I'm going to mention. But yeah, I basically just went with Ashton Jen Teabag. There we go.
You've Aussie NFL fantasied the hell out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like my play on words, love my rhymes. It's just who I am.
You know how sometimes the first play of the game can be a real tone setter? Yeah. That's a tone setter.
Got to bring a different name each week.
So good. I think that's going to really inform how we approach some of the things that we're going to talk about tonight. Mate, do you want to give us a quick layout of how you feel about Ashton Jeanty? He goes to the Las Vegas Raiders in the first round. It's a position of need for the Raiders. What do you think his outlook is fantasy-wise?
Well, my thought is that he's going to be teabagging a lot of defenders. So that kind of goes hand in hand with his name. Yeah. But look, honestly, the guy's just an absolute weapon. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of a Derrick Henry clone. Like, he doesn't have the full height and like the absolute build of a Derrick Henry, but the guy is big. The guy is fast. The guy can break off a massive play. And there's a reason, like, yes, college defenses aren't amazing, and there's going to be some times where a college plays certain teams and they don't always play the top 10 teams or whatever, and they're going to have some bumped up numbers. But I think everyone could see that this guy was a special talent. It wasn't just the fact that he was playing against lesser opponents. I'm actually a bit of a Smurf turf lover. I like Boise, so I was actually kind of keeping an eye on this team a bit more than probably some other college teams that I normally do. But this guy's just got everything you need. Like, he's going to be able to catch passes. He's going to be a complete workhorse for this Raiders team. He went to a team that doesn't have an incumbent. Like, he's just going to usurp. And you brought up that back in the day that teams used to bring someone on slowly and then sort of work them in and take the role basically at the end of their first contract. This guy's just going to hit the ground running and have the role completely. So he's going to go high, I believe. Like, it's going to be hard for me to know whether I'm going to be high on him because I'm going to need to see his ADP closer, because I think a lot of people are going to be excited for this guy. I am excited. I really don't see, I honestly think his floor with the amount of work he's going to get is probably around the running back 12 to 15. I really think that could be his lowest. Yeah. Because I just think there's going to be too much work for him. I think this Raiders team in general is heading in the right direction. I think just getting a Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, guys that are sort of, look, are they either of those guys mean they're going to the Super Bowl all of a sudden? No, but yes. It's just around the franchise from some of the shit heaps that we've seen. Brock Bowers going into year 2. I just think this offense in general is just getting a bit of a leg up, and the fact that Genty's there, I'm pretty excited for him in redraft, probably.
I just think that there's things to be said for when you bring in a different quarterback, you bring in a whole different coaching staff at the same time as you bring in the rookie that you selected. I just feel like there's a couple of things that are at play that funnel towards him probably being really worthwhile in the maybe not the way that everyone could see Zeke was going to be super effective when he came into the league. He was drafted in the top 5 running backs in his rookie year. I'm not saying be that aggressive, but having had a look at how the market's reacted to Jeanty, he's on the fringe of that top 10. You brought up outside towards that 15 range at lowest, so you're in the same camp, and I don't disagree either. It'll just be interesting to see how that all lands once people are... There's just not a lot of mock draft data in. But I trust that. And I would feel okay trotting him out there as my running back 1 if I got him in the second round today. Today in the start of May. So
take that for what you will.
Yeah? Do you feel comfortable with that analysis? Do you think I've lost my mind?
Look, I'm with you at the same time, though. I just... It's hard for me to say this guy's bona fide, top 5 or anything. That's why I felt like I was better off almost giving a floor for what I think he's going to be doing, having the complete role on this team, more so than what I think his ceiling is right now. Because, like I said, I want a little bit more. There's going to be some. I feel like he's the type of guy we're only going to get positive training camp notes out of. We're going to just see this guy just absolutely ripping and tearing, and everyone's going to lose their mind over him. So I imagine whatever he's at right now, he's only going to go up. So I really need to see between 10 to 6 range where he's going to fall in ADP for me to be seeing where I'm excited. But in general, as a rookie just coming out, I am excited for this guy, and I think he's in for a big few years in the league.
Now, I'm not going to do this for every guy. I'm going to do this for this guy. Yep. It's the game of let's roll down the running backs list and tell me where you feel like he fits. Okay?
Yep.
We got to start undisputed I'm going to say number one running back in fantasy football is Saquon Barkley. I would prefer Saquon over Genty. You agree?
I will take Saquon, Matty Connor.
Mate, that's bold. Next in that region is Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he is rightly somebody you would consider to be a top 3 running back right now. Second, third, somewhere in that range. I'd still take him over Genty. I don't think that's wild.
I will also take Gibbs.
How about Bijan?
I'll take Bijan.
Yeah. Now here's where it gets fun. McCaffrey.
Yeah, see, I don't think McCaffrey's going to go at running back 4. I think there's going to be too many people scared of him, but I'm the camp that I am probably going to go with him. But again, it's about that ADP. It's like if people get that scared of him that he's all of a sudden heading more in the like running back 8-9 range, then that's where I'm hearing people are thinking he's going to go, and that's where I would take him. But at running back 4, if you're just comparing him to Genty, that's hard. Honestly, it sucks because I'm high on Christian McCaffrey, but I honestly think I would go Genty just because I just feel like there's far less risk in the pick.
Yeah. And I'm not saying maybe McCaffrey's running back 4. I think those top 3 are a tier. And McCaffrey is part of this next bunch. And I don't think you could put McCaffrey in the top 3 anymore. But I don't think you could put any of these other names I'm about to mention with that 3 either.
I just think...
And you tell me if I'm wrong when I bring them up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's already proving straight away that even if you fall, like if he's getting drafted on the edge of that top 5, I've got no problem with it.
I mean, I wouldn't be doing it because I think I'd still take McCaffrey, right? But then Derrick Henry. You take Derrick Henry, right?
Yeah, you probably have to because you're the commodity. Like that's what I mean. I'd probably lean towards taking Henry maybe ahead of McCaffrey just because of what I've seen. Like
because of the tier, right? It's about the right price, but it's personal preference.
Yeah. I just think when you're picking at the tippy top, you're just trying to rule out a lot of the risks, and I just don't think there's many risks in a guy like Henry.
No, there isn't. Did you say the tippy top? That's cute.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You're so beautiful. Devon Achane?
I'd take Genty.
Yeah, see, I think this is the range, right? Bucky Irving?
Yeah, Genty.
Yeah? Josh Jacobs?
Yep, Genty.
Jonathan Taylor? So I think this is the bunch. Breece Hall?
Yeah, Genty.
James Cook?
Yeah, I'll take Genty.
Wow. Okay, so you're now in that range of, he's probably between 5 and 7.
Yeah, that's fair. I hadn't really kind of mentally put a number on him. I just, that's why I initially brought up where I think basically his floor is. But it's funny when you bring up those names. There is a lot of guys that I would actually prefer Genty over. So, yeah, it sounds like I am pretty high on him. Wait and see.
I don't know if I need to go to a doctor, but I feel like I don't disagree. I mean, maybe the people that I'm putting in that range ahead of Genty are different, but I still kind of feel like that range is right. We're agreeing. This is weird.
We got to stop that.
Yeah. It's not good radio. Okay. That's the Genty conversation. And I think we did a great job of that. The next ones won't be as intensive, but I think the next guy we really need to talk about at running back is Marian Hampton. He went up at the Chargers where we waxed lyrical about how great of a landing spot this is for Najee Harris. Does that still hold up now we know about Hampton?
Well, no, it doesn't. And a huge part of what I was saying was like, how early do they take a running back in the draft? And they just go and take one in the first fucking round. So no, it's not exciting for Najee. I will say, like, I've got tempered expectations for Hampton himself as well, just because I don't think they signed Najee for him to go away. Like, I really don't think that, because they've went Hampton in this first round, that all of a sudden they're just going to start with him as the complete lead back, and they've just got Najee like chipping in for like 10 to 20% of snaps. I would actually expect Najee to probably take the first snap, and I think he would probably be on the slight end of the snap count, like even if it's like 55-45 or something. So it downplays my like huge excitement for Najee. I like this spot in Dynasty for Hampton. Like, I think this is amazing for his future. Like, I don't think Najee's long for this team. I have to look at this in a redraft way we're looking at it. But I'm just saying, if I was an owner in Dynasty or I'm doing Dynasty drafts, I would be keen to get him because I think it's a great landing spot for his career. I'm a little bit more lukewarm in terms of redraft for him, like I said, because I don't think goes away. I think they brought Najee in for a reason. So I do think it's going to be a bit of a split carry backfield, which might make me not like either of them in redraft, but obviously Najee's going to be the far better value because he's going to plummet down boards now. So there might be a chance I take a shot on him. But I'm just a little bit lukewarm, like I said, on Hampton just because Najee's there.
I wrote one word of analysis for this one. I just wrote, ouch, because to me, he landed in a timeshare at best with a guy who is 25 and is a bell cow, really, right? Like, he's had a little injury concern while he's at Pittsburgh, and there's no reason now why, if a team has gone out, found him, given him, we want you to be our starter money, that he isn't going to do that. And like, if I'm getting Najee, I want to secure Hampton, but I don't know what your cost is going to be. Do you remember the days when you had to get Le'Veon Bell and James Conner? This smells like that.
Yeah, it does, because if either of them went down, the other one would be amazing. Although, like, I don't know exactly what's going on at J.K. Dobbins. They put that, like, that tender on him or whatever, but that also doesn't guarantee. The more I looked into it, I initially thought that meant he'd be on the team, but it was more that if someone else took him, they'd have to get a pick from it. From that team that picked him up, but it also doesn't guarantee that he's on the team. It's real awkward what they're doing. It's like they're fucking JK himself, because they're basically, no team's going to go for him now because they don't want to have to give up a pick. But then all of a sudden he could just be cut anyway. So I don't know.
Cheap insurance.
Yeah. I understand why the Chargers are doing it. It's not a shit for Dobbins himself, but I don't know. I still feel like, you're right. If one of these guys went down, I feel like it'd be amazing for the other, and they'd have this awesome role on a very rushing team with a pretty decent O-line and a coach that really wants to run the ball. So the situation's there on the team. It's just hard because, like you said, they're splitting carries. So it's hard to be excited for either of them right now.
Hey, mate, the next guy is Travion Henderson, who wound up at the New England Patriots, and I'm going to take your opinion on him before I unleash mine on this one, because, I mean, this was one of the very, very worst offensive lines in the history of offensive lines. And you know a bit about that, having been at Tennessee for the last few years while they've had it tough. But I think New England might have found a new low. What do we think about Travion Henderson? Touches, opportunity, what's his role?
Yeah, the Titans wasn't an O-line. It was an oh-no line. It was so fucking shit. It's a weird spot, isn't it? Like, because they just paid. I know it's weird. I'm going to talk about the incumbent again, not so much just the play, but I feel like when we're talking landing spots, it's hard not to.
It's super important.
It's Ramondre just got the extension, which is kind of odd. Like, because yes, Vrabel's in. They've seen this guy. They're going to want to run the ball a shitload. Like, that's kind of what Vrabel wants to do anyway. He's hard nosed. He's going to want their defense to be
old school football, man.
Which, in a way, is a good thing because it's going to open up more rushing opportunities. And I'll be honest, like, if I was looking at this, I've seen for a while Ramondre kind of struggle on the ground anyway, but sort of be good at chipping in terms of being a pass catcher. I would be using Henderson as my rusher between the tackles, and then probably using Ramondre as my pass catcher. The only problem with that is often you do the opposite because in terms of age, like, you want the younger guy sort of being the pass catcher on third down because you might need 6 or 7 yards, and you kind of want the quicker guy. So it'll be interesting to see what they actually do there, whether it's just they literally split everything. They might split, like, literally the third down work and the first and second down work, which wouldn't surprise me either. But again, for redraft, it's not one that excites me just because there's an incumbent there who I don't understand why they would just go away. Like, I really don't. It doesn't make any sense for the Pats why, when they just paid Ramondre for this specific season. Again, I don't mind it for him in Dynasty for Henderson because
totally.
Like, Stevenson's deal, I'm pretty sure is pretty front loaded. Like, they can get out of him pretty quickly. But for
next year if they need,
I just don't see how he goes away all of a sudden. I don't mind it in terms of how many rush attempts this team will have. There is also a chance, yes, it's Vrabel. They are probably going to be better, but they're probably going to be, in terms of just skill on the team, they're going to be behind in games. And that's where you've got to really take your shot on whether you think it's going to be Stevenson or Henderson actually taking that third down role. So, yeah, it's not bad, but it's also not, like, super exciting either.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to lay mine out here, and I'm going to do it with a bit of Taylor Goodall inspiration. I'm going to do it in prose. You ready?
Here we go.
His name is Travion Henderson, and he's landed in New England. Don't spend a high pick, just stash him real late, because when the Pats hit a wall, he might just be great. And essentially all I'm saying here is it's difficult to know whether he's going to be the early down back or not, but man, they're going to trail a lot, and there's going to be opportunities for backs to be out there catching passes. We play PPR, point per reception. Ramondre can't do all the PPR work, I imagine. He's a 27-year-old running back who's just signed this wonderful extension they can bail out of in 10 minutes' time if they need to. And I don't think that that's going to preclude them from putting Travion out there a fair bit in trailing situations, and he's not going to have to rely on being in a goal line situation to be valuable. His outlook is going to be dire, but he's going to end up being better than what you pay for him. And you may wind up picking him up as your last running back in the draft. And I think he will pay that back in spades. How did you feel, too, just quickly, this is personal critique time, Henderson with New England? How did I go with the rhyme there?
I love it when you add syllables to make it work. Like that's the secret sauce right there. Like that's really what gets me going in the morning. Like there is no more New England. It's New England now because
England. Yeah, that's it. He's like, people say there's no words that rhyme with orange, and Kev's like, nah, there's a million of them. It's just you got to say the word you want to rhyme with orange.
What's the word?
So that's it. I've taken a page out of the Kev Patterson rap book, by the way. So
New Orangeland. Like there is no more New England. It's New England now because
England. Yeah, that's it. He's like, people say there's no words that rhyme with orange, and Kev's like, nah, there's a million of them. It's just you got to say the word you want to rhyme with orange.
What's the word?
So that's it. I've taken a page out of the Kev Patterson rap book, by the way. So
New Orangeland.
He's going to be so chuffed that this is where the podcast's gone. 3 running backs in. I've only got one more running back I really think is worthwhile talking about at this stage, and as preseason develops, we might find there are more reasons to talk about more of them. But really, the one that jumped out to me, who's left in the pack, is that there was a whopping hole left in what was an uncertain at best Denver running back situation. RJ Harvey winds up there. How do you feel initially about that landing spot?
So, my initial thought was I have a lot of interest. But do you know how sometimes you almost feel like the perception of like what the media and sort of like what you're hearing with like fantasy, the fantasy sort of community in general, it actually makes you turn the other way. Like I almost feel like from base of just what I'm seeing in terms of people's questions on like fantasy groups on Facebook and like, dynasty questions and stuff like that, I almost feel like people are almost overrating this landing spot a little bit. Like I understand the idea of Sean Payton. Like he's had amazing running back situations. Was that him or was that the personnel? I don't know. Like your Mark Ingram and your Alvin Kamara's and stuff. Like he always seemed to get him up there in terms of fantasy production. But I almost think people are maybe overrating that a little bit. Like we also saw him just destroy every fucking running back he had last year. Like they couldn't get anything out of anyone. And then the problem was that anytime any running back got something going, he all of a sudden changed it the next week. Like it was just a carousel of arseholes.
Can't explain it.
Yeah.
Can't explain that.
Yeah, I can. There's a carousel and it's asses instead of horses on there. Like that's seriously how it felt. So that's
an image.
Yeah, it's a great image. I'm tempering my expectations a little bit. Look, am I very happy from the outside just looking at this and going, they wanted this guy? Like they clearly had a plan to get him. At the same time, I think they had an opportunity to maybe get one of the other guys and they didn't, and then they kind of just let this guy fall to him, which also gives me a little bit of pause. But at the same time, I really do believe taking this guy where they did, it shows that they have a plan for him. And to be honest, if you're just looking at this as what offense he's going to Bo Nix, he's going to a team that's clearly on the rise. I think this team is going to win games, and I do think they're going to be ahead in a fair chunk of games, which is going to be good for the running back position. And this is where it's opposite to say what we talked about with the Chargers and the Pats. There really isn't an incumbent. He's walking in, taking the job. Like if he's good enough, then he's taking this complete role.
See, I don't share the same optimism only because I've seen the Sean Payton Russian roulette of running backs, and this is a flaccid gun. Nobody loves Javonte more than me, mate. As you know, I even went head to head with Kev one week. And I walked out of that a battered winner because, I don't know, it was 6.4 versus 4.2. Like, it was a bullshit week for the two running backs we decided we're going to strap on our aggression for. But that has been the oddest game of, musical chairs between Javonte, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Audric Estime. And I've got utterly no confidence that I have any idea how that's going to work this year, and that they could all be 8 touches a game, and one game somewhere out of nowhere, one of them gets a clear 14 or 15 for no reason. And then it just goes back to we don't even learn anything from that the next week because I haven't seen enough patterns for me to feel confident here. And there are then a couple of other running backs who are probably less relevant than this, and we're going to step over them while we talk wide receivers next. But was there anything else you wanted to add to the RJ Harvey experience at this stage, Tat?
No, I was just going to quickly mention Judkins, just only because
Do an honorary mention.
An honorary mention because I actually think he might be the type of guy that I probably will be interested in, because just if you look at that running back depth chart, yes, being at the Browns is nowhere near as like what it used to be in terms of like when Chubb was there, and their own offensive line isn't as good. They're going to be behind in games. So it's like that exact same situation, but he is going to be probably the lead back. It looks like it's basically just him and Jerome Ford. So I do think that's actually a pretty good opportunity for him, and I don't feel like people seem to be as high on him. So he could be like the opposite of Harvey, where I take a shot on Judkins instead of Harvey because the perception of him's lower. And if they're both the starting back, there's a chance that he just sort of gets the lead back role, whereas a Harvey sort of, like we said, just plays the fucking arsehole roulette and, ends up, playing good every third or fourth game. So I don't mind taking a shot at Judkins. He's kind of like the main honorary mention because I would be looking him in drafts because I think there might be some decent value.
I really think he's the only running back left to mention, but I've just, now that you've mentioned arsehole roulette, my mind is trying to picture that.
There's some great pictures I'm setting during this podcast.
It's amazing. We've done one position and we've had the arsehole carousel, the arsehole roulette. We've had the weirdest Russian roulette ever with the most flaccid gun. We've covered some ground, mate.
Yeah, it just farts at you. It doesn't actually shoot you.
Henderson and New England. It's been a... Mate, this is the marker of things to come.
Back in fine form we are.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
He laid an egg and it wasn't golden.
Guaranteed to win 75% of the time.
I'd like to have that quarterback pick again.
We've got to talk about it, mate. It's an elephant in the room.
And there was something in the stars that said, Taylor, you're going to be shit house again.
And then reverse for the even rounds.
The Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
All right, let's keep this rolling while we've got the momentum up. We're going to rookie wide receivers, and there has been no wide receiver, I think, who's been talked about nearly as much as a guy who kind of looks like he turned up there on work experience when he was trying on a helmet. Travis Hunter had some great footage going around of him around the draft day experience. He goes to my guys, the Jacksonville Jaguars. We trade up from 5 to 2 to get him. Tell me what this means for fantasy tag.
Yeah, it's another funny one because, like, this guy is just a complete Swiss Army knife. Like, it's like, what are we even expecting out of offense? Like, what are we expecting out of defense? The talent is just oozing, mate. Like, it is. Yeah. I'd be excited as a Jags fan. Like, I just think they traded up for a reason. They basically decided they were going to get 2 players in one, and they just decided it was worth that sort of extra package to move up and get him. Sort of seems like a generational talent. Like everything you saw in college, like how could you not be excited for this guy? That's just like him in general. Like if you just, taking like whether we're looking at redraft or out of it. But in terms of what I expect out of him in the first season, I don't expect like a huge fantasy redraft output. he's no way going to be the wide receiver one, probably in the near future, honestly. Like, BTJ is an absolute stud. Well, I brought him up last year. I think the guy is just a bona fide starter, and he's going to be there for a long time. So it's also not something you would say is like a prolific offense that could it's not a Bengals. It's not something that like could really sustain two guys at a very high level. We've seen it. Like, we've seen, not ridiculously high-end offenses sustain like two, say, top 24 guys. So I'm not saying that like a top 24 outcome isn't in his range of outcomes, but I just wouldn't be surprised if this guy's just sort of brought on a bit slower. They can use him on defense as a way to sort of like ease him in on offense in a way. Look, they may do that the complete opposite if they really wanted to, but I just think that BTJ is the stud. I just think you're going to see him as the wide receiver 2. There might be some games where he just randomly is the wide receiver 4 in the games early in the year. I just don't see any ridiculous breakout performances when he's just got a stud in front of him. So, and obviously, we've got questions about Lawrence. Honestly, like, we need to see Lawrence sort of step it up if they're going to actually have a prolific offense this year. So, I have pretty tempered, expectations on him in redraft this year. Like, I think most people do, to be honest. Like, even though everyone loves him and he's a generation talent, I do think we will see him not go ridiculously high in redraft anyway. Look, if you're sitting there right at the end of drafts or something, he's worth a shot. But I think there will be at least a few people in your league that'll just like take him probably earlier than I'm going to want to, just because of the talent and, the name of him. But yeah, look, it's exciting. It's exciting. I would love to see him play. I can't wait to watch him play, but I just don't see him being hugely fantasy relevant year one.
And reasonable. Very early on, he's in that sort of wide receiver 4 range of redraft, sort of ADP.
That's not bad, though. Well, I see, honestly, at that range, take a shot. Like, as a late flyer, because, like, let's just say, in a nutshell, like, BTJ got injured or something, like, he would probably need to step it up and things would change for his role, and it's worth taking a shot on that at wide receiver 4. Like, I think that's fine. For me personally, I just am saying in general, I wouldn't be surprised if that is where he finishes and, you just sort of wasted a pick.
Hey, before we put a bow on Travis Hunter, I may have also come up with a little bit of verse around him. Are you ready?
Here we go. The bar.
I can already hear you're underwhelmed, and I haven't started.
Rip it, baby, rip it.
Time for a tale about Travis Hunter. If you ask him, he does everything but be a punter. Kirk is gone. The RBs were hurt. Engram's in Denver. That depth chart's just burnt. Their defense is pus. They leak like a sieve. So Trevor's going throw like he's playing to live. Yeah. All it's sort of saying is that there's going to be targets out there. I need to see what part he picks up because everyone else is gone and you've just got BTJ there and not a lot else. I just need to see targets. Hey, the next couple of wide receivers, I'm digging these guys. I want to start with a guy who immediately when he got drafted, we had a nickname for, Titty McMillan, old Titty Mac. He's gone to the Carolina Panthers. His name's Tatearoa, which I also love, Tatearoa McMillan. Mate, since the blooming of Bryce Young, there does seem to be a little bit more going on in that offense. How do you feel like he benefits, or do you feel like it's again going to be a slow burn for this guy? Where do you land?
No, I don't think it's going to be a slow burn because I really just feel like they had a need there, and I honestly just think he's going to go straight into being the wide receiver 1. I really do. I feel like they've drafted him high for a reason. They see what they thought they saw out of Bryce Young, and they thought, you know what, we're not going to slow this down. We're going to go and get basically the best talent that we saw at wide receiver and just making the wide receiver 1 from the get-go. So the good thing for him too is, and I'd like this if I was a guy like Bryce Young, is Tet is amazing, like at contested catches. Like when you actually watch a lot of his tape, he's actually kind of mossing dudes and he's strong. Like kind of reminds me a bit of like a Puka Nakua in the way that he can just box people out and he can win balls even if they aren't like perfectly thrown, or like he can turn like nothing into something. And that's what I really liked about his tape is I think that's going to help a guy like Bryce Young. Like he even if he doesn't throw the absolute most perfect ball, I think a guy like Tet's going to actually give him a chance to actually go and get it. So I really like that as a connection for, a third-year Bryce Young and going getting a strong wide receiver like that. I'd be more worried if they went for like a Golden or something like that stretches the field or something like. I think he needs like a possession receiver like McMillan can be, just to sort of get that offense going. So I really like the fit. I've liked McMillan from the start. I'll definitely be interested in him. Definitely for Dynasty, but like even for redraft, I actually think he's going to be a rookie that could actually hit the ground running. So yeah, I'm excited for him.
You know who he reminds me of completely? This is so funny that we're back here, but he has everything that I think is great about DJ Moore, and it's just kind of funny that DJ Moore is now like up in that windy bay that smells like bad onions, and all of a sudden the Carolina Panthers have gone back into the well and just dragged out the next guy who is the most like DJ Moore since DJ Moore. And I kind of like it because clearly Young and Moore didn't get to live in the same space. But this is the chance for that to take, seed. And it doesn't matter to me that Adam Thielen's back for an unprecedented 76th season in the NFL. He's played more seasons than Frank Gore, by the way, now, just for those counting at home. Because McMillan's a great player, and I'd be happy to see him on my rosters knowing that, he's going to have weeks a little bit like you saw. There was a guy on their roster last year, like Jalen Coker, who just turned up and had great fantasy relevant weeks because he was a guy who was there and he was on the field. McMillan's going to take up roles like him where he's going to eat snaps that idiots like that had to take up because there was kind of no one there. But he's a better player. And I just feel like it's kind of set up for him to succeed out of the gate. And I just don't know how he's going to be valued by the fantasy community by the time drafts roll around. At the moment, he's in that wide receiver sort of 25 to 30 range, which is sort of saying nothing. It's like he might be a flex. I'd be really interested in having him as my third wide receiver, but it's one of those ones where if I took two really great wide receivers early on and I felt like I could move one of those good wide receivers on if I see a bit from McMillan early, he could be, do you remember the Kenny Golladay rookie season? Where all of a sudden, or the Juju Smith-Schuster rookie season, which is all of a sudden the second half of the year, they were just throw him in, lock him in. They cost you like an 8th, 9th, 10th round pick in your draft. But by the end of the year, you could not mess with them. And I kind of smell that about McMillan already. The next step here is I think the order they were drafted is different to how we wrote them down in terms of how we value them. I actually think that when we look down the other three wide receivers we wanted to talk about, probably the next most likely to have fantasy success is going to be Matthew Golden. He went to the Green Bay Packers. I low-key love this guy because I wish my last name was Golden. So, mate, how is this going to work out for him? Because he's on an offense that's, they've got a lot of receivers, but where does he fall in the pack of them?
This one, I don't know. It's not so much confusing because I understand they needed to make a splash at wide receiver. They needed someone to be their bona fide one. They've, like as Kev says, they've got 98 twos or 98 fours or whatever he likes to call them. They needed like an alpha. They needed someone that they could sort of go to. They needed their Devontae Adams back. The problem is I don't look at this guy as that in the sense that. Like he reminds me of kind of more like Jamison Williams-y. Like he's kind of when it comes to fantasy this year, I'm not going to feel confident in him in any moment. I don't believe. Like when you actually watch him, like he's the kind of guy that I worry is like a real shot at the stumps in the way that yes, could he turn into an absolute star? Absolutely. Does he have the ability to flame out completely in like within like a year or two? Absolutely. Like I like the excitement of that. And is that worth taking a shot in the first round if you're a chance of getting an absolute bona fide star? I get it. But when you're like a playoff team like the Packers and you're like looking for that wide receiver one, like I would have almost like preferred to see them go hard at their wide receiver one and like trade up for like Tet. Like, you know what I mean? Like someone that is more of a possession receiver and is guaranteed. Like it just worries me for them that they took their shot and it could easily just like completely go to shit. as quickly as it could be great. And for year one for him, I'm not really that excited because I just feel like it could actually be really, really bad. And the problem for me is like if he's just stretching the field and he's trying to make big plays, I just feel there's too many other guys that can do enough in terms of like getting volume in that Packers team that's going to make him super like sketchy week to week to play. Like, am I ever going to be confident in him if all of a sudden there's still weeks where Jaden Reed's like vacuuming up fucking 8 targets, or you know what I mean, or it's a Christian Watson game somehow, or like I don't know. I just feel like because they have all these wide receiver twos there, it's going to still make me worried whether Golden actually is the bona fide one and whether I can trust it week to week. So I'm not actually one of these guys that's super excited, but I understand the talent and I understand why they took a shot. If I was a Packers fan, I would have rather seen them maybe go a different direction for their bona fide one and maybe try to be more aggressive in the draft.
I mean, this was my analysis on it, Tay, and I feel like we're sort of sniffing in the same ballpark here, but Packers receivers, they're still got Christian Watson, right, who I think is probably the best route runner out of all of them and probably the best like long-term prospect that they've drafted at wide receiver for some time.
Highest upside.
Right?
Lowest floor. Because he could just get
fucking injury resistance, by the way. Do you know, I weigh like 60 kilos and I got injured far less than Christian Watson. So, you know, wow, the guy made, like, the wind could break him in half. Then there's Jaden Reed. He's 4 points or he's 36 points. Has he ever had a week where he's just gone out and put up a 12, 13? Has he? I don't think he has. I think he's just one spectrum or the other. Then you get guys like Dubs and I mean, then there's like 6 carbon copies of Dubs out there who are fine and they'll get 5 targets sometimes. And I just don't know where Golden fits on the spectrum. But I do like that they finally put some cachet in an offensive guy, which gives me confidence that guys like Dubs and Wicks are probably not going to outlast him in terms of when it comes down to trying to keep 5 guys on the roster. They might keep them all, but I just think that this guy's going to see more field than them.
Yep, no, for sure. And he's got the capital, so it's hard for them not to.
Yeah. How do you feel about pronouncing the next one for me? The guy who went to Tampa Bay.
Is it like Crash Bandicoot? Ooga booga.
This is so horrible, but I made the same damn joke when I drafted him in our NFL fantasy draft the other day. I leant over to my colleague next to me and went, I can draft Matthew Golden or Emeka Egbuka, and every part of me wants to call him Ooga booga from Crash Bandicoot. And my colleague next to me goes, as a white guy, I don't think you're allowed to say that. So there you go.
Both us white guys have said it on a podcast.
You've now said it.
So we'll just go down together.
I mean, that's been the MO of this show from the outset, hey. If you're gone, I'm gone. We're all gone. The 15 listeners won't miss us that much.
Nah, poor guys.
What are you doing with Emeka Egbuka?
So Egbuka might have been my favourite wide receiver, coming into the draft. He was the one that I was most interested to see where he went, because I thought he had the potential to be straight away a stud in the NFL. And then he basically ended up in the worst possible position, the worst possible team for his redraft value year one. I think it's amazing for the offense. I think it's amazing for Baker Mayfield. It's basically insurance in their wide receiver room for if there's injuries. If all of a sudden Egbuka's coming in, because of Mike Evans or a Godwin or something, got injured in the first couple of weeks. It's actually amazing knowing if you've got Baker Mayfield, you've got an insurance behind them. I'm a lover of Jalen McMillan, so I was worried when this happened, but I'm with you. I think
it might hurt him the most.
I will, but I still think McMillan probably is the 3 in front of him. So, I don't love his initial redraft value, but because of where he's landed, I really don't think he's going to get drafted high at all, if anywhere. In a 10-team league, I don't think he will at all. I don't think anyone's going to be high on him at all. So he's the kind of guy that I might scoop up with that potential of maybe like even if I took like a Mike Evans or a Godwin, I probably would take him maybe late as like almost a wide receiver handcuff in a way, because I think he would come in and actually have value straight away if there was injuries in front of him. So yeah, it's an interesting one because it's an offense that seems to be able to move the ball unbelievably.
Yes,
and a quarterback that's just gone strength to strength since he's been there. So, like I said, I like him as a bit of a like handcuff to like maybe one of the starters or something, but I can also understand him just going undrafted and being like a bit of a waiver wire look to see what happens. But I like the talent. I would still be in on him, like I said, in our dynasty. But for redraft, I just think he's got too many guys in front of him already.
The last wide receiver in the bunch that we wanted to talk about was Luther Burden, who wound up at the Chicago Bears. Now, I'm not entirely certain for me that there's a lot I want to say about him, but Tay, we brought him up because you sort of said, hey, he's worth talking about. He is going to an offense that's got a lot of change going on. We've seen their offensive coordinator and their head coach in the last 12 months all turnover. Everything's in flux, but they've done a great job of they've got a great young quarterback. They've got some really solid wide receiver. They've gone out and made some other changes in other positions here. Luther Burden being part of this evolution. How do you see him fitting into this new look offense?
And this is very much where you're separating what you think of the actual player himself and his talent and just talking specifically fantasy and redraft for this year, because I think he's unbelievably talented. I think it made sense. Like Ben Johnson clearly liked this guy and went out and got a guy that he wanted, like to really this offense. My initial thought was I looked at this kind of like how we looked at Rome Odunze last year on this Bears team, is that it was a high sort of, pick, but he's going straight into a wide receiver 3 role. And so it's hard to really get excited unless like something sort of changed in front of him. The only thing that makes me almost slightly more positive than that is we kind of knew that set in stone with DJ Moore and then going and sort of trading for Keenan Allen. We're like, well, there's no way those two guys are stepping on the field as wide receiver 1 and 2. You could convince me that Luther straight away might usurp Odunze. Like I know there was first round capital, but that was a different regime. Like if all of a sudden he comes in and he's absolutely dominating in camp, like you can't tell me. I'm not saying I wouldn't predict that right now. Like I like Odunze. He didn't do anything wrong in his rookie season. I'm just saying that in my own mind, when I'm looking at this, like I can't look at it exactly the same as last year, because there is actually a percentage chance that Luther just comes in and is actually better than him, and he dominates in camp, but it's actually him and DJ Moore and sort of Odunze just coming in 3 wide receiver sets. So yeah, like I have interest. I'm interested to watch him probably from afar just to see how it goes, because I think he's very talented, and Ben Johnson, we all know, has got a creative mind offensively. So I'll be interested to see what he can do with him. My initial thought for redraft is I'm not too interested, but again, it's where he's drafted. It's very like we talked about Golden in terms of taking a late shot. He's the kind of guy I would take a late shot, because all of a sudden if he usurps Odunze as wide receiver 2 on this Bears offense that we all think is going to get better, he's definitely got interest there, but yeah, I don't expect him to go too high.
I don't know. Yeah, it's one of these things where his value I don't think is going to be super high, but what he could return to you, watch this space. That'll be an interesting one as we get into proper redraft mock draft season. Mate, do you have any other wide receivers you just want to drop in there for an honorable mention? We've gone through 5. I didn't write down any more to dive into, but was there anyone else you want to bring up real quick?
No, we sort of wrote down the ones that I really thought were there specifically. Like there are other guys, like we've looked at dynasty leagues, and there's a couple of guys that went to the Texans and stuff like that. They could have a role because obviously it's basically just Nico. Tank Dell definitely has been basically ruled out for this year, so it could be value there. Yeah, I do kind of felt like outside of those guys, it sort of fell off a bit. Like I sort of noticed that. So
they're out 5.
Yeah, and that's even me talking dynasty. Like I felt it was a huge tier break, but for redraft, I didn't feel like anyone else
even more
straight away was.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Tay, have you told Quinny anything about this?
No, not even a little bit.
5 questions from 2 dickheads.
6 teams on a bye.
It just made me a bit sad and a bit depressed.
Get your question read live on the show.
You got a quarterback for us, Quinny?
I do. I'm going Kyler Murray.
At Aussie NFL Fantasy on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, the defense isn't the thing that they're leading on this year. They just basically just get road raced.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
It's time for tightening your end up, Tay. We reckon there's 2 who deserve some pub. We're going to stay in Chicago, which is, it's a tough spot for tight ends. We used to sing songs about the tight ends there. And now, I don't know what we do with this guy, but he's got an incredible name, Colston Loveland. And I don't know, maybe I'm being too Aussie there. Is it Loveland or Loveland? I haven't seen a proper ruling on this.
But, Matty, we have to collectively do a somber call come 4-1. Sadness across this podcast. But at least we have body is a Loveland. Like, at least we can work. We can do some workshopping. That doesn't have to stick, but we can. We've definitely got a good name there. But look, in the end, it's kind of similar to a lot of the stuff I just brought up with Burden in the way that like Ben Johnson came and got his guy, and everyone's going to compare him to Sam Laporta, and I feel like they've actually already gone and done that. It's weird the Komet's there though. It's like what. I don't know what to make of it in terms of a year 1 redraft. Like, there is talent there. I am also concerned that they have, like, 3 guys we know of high draft capital wide receivers, or just sort of guys that have already been in the league and played well at wide receiver, and an incumbent tight end who, if you look at his stats, if like Komet was this amazing blocking tight end, I would just assume they kept him in there, and that's all he did, and Loveland was just the pass catcher, which would make me happier for him. But Komet's kind of like average in a lot of those like areas, so I'm like, he's still on the team. They're probably still going to want to use him in some way to catch passes. Like, it's going to be one of these things where you take Dalton Kincaid and all of a sudden Dawson Knox fucking catches the touchdown. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Komet pops up way too many times for Loveland owners and you're just pissed and you're like, why did they even do this to us? So, yeah, we've seen tight ends break out as rookies, and he has all the skills and the situation to do it. It just worries me the fact that there's 3 wide receivers, there's, a running back out of the backfield, there's just sort of like too many mouths to feed for me. But I will say,
a mobile quarterback.
We probably said the same thing about Detroit when Laporta first went there, and then he had that rookie season that he did. So, look, there's a chance, but I am not projecting it, and he's probably not someone I will target.
I'm so stubborn. I'm still like, nope, rookie tight ends. I don't buy them. And I don't buy him. And I'm going to need to see something before I feel comfortable buying him. And I don't feel terribly different when it comes to the other tight end in this class we want to talk about, Tyler Warren. I like his name. I like that he's gone to the Colts because, I think they went a bit early to get a positional fix here, but they definitely need to give whoever's going to be their starter there something to pass to. But what's the deal? How do you think he fits into this offense?
So, like I said, I sort of foreskinned it there a bit. I actually have more hope for him in redraft than I probably do Loveland, and I don't think that's going to be a popular opinion. So I kind of saved the best for last because I feel like we were kind of on the same page of everything. And so I kind of wanted to save this take for the end. And it's more about what I just brought up is that I think he has a chance to come in and actually be the one on his team, which is crazy. I know you're going to say you're going to say Downs, like you're going to say these guys have sort of earned it, but it's more that there's a chance, like straight away. Like you can't tell me right now there isn't a percentage chance that this guy that they've taken in the first round. And the Colts, yes, it's different regimes and stuff like that, but the Colts have sort of always been this team with, Baby Hands Doyle and, going Mo Alley Cox, and like they've always wanted a tight end presence. But I just don't think they've ever had guys talented enough to do enough with it. And I really feel like they've been sort of crying out for it. And I feel like this guy is super talented. And I think he has the chance to actually be a guy that could be a volume hunter, which is not what you get out of tight end a lot. And it's what we just saw out of a Brock Bowers. Now, I'm not on here on a podcast saying that this guy's as talented as Brock Bowers. Like I said, I think he could be a one of one. But I just see like there's a chance on this team that he could actually, out maybe 30 or 40% of the games this year actually receive the most targets or the most receptions, which is crazy to think for a rookie tight end. Now, I will give the negative as well. Like, I don't know who the fuck's the quarterback. And honestly, I actually think I prefer Daniel Jones, which is an unbelievable thing to say. But I don't trust Richardson's arm. So if it's Richardson going in there, it's hard to trust anyone in the passing game. It's just more a shot on, I don't think Warren's going to go high in drafts, if even getting drafted. So I'm in on him as a late round. I've missed everyone that I've targeted in tight end, and I think he has some upside and the chance to actually be a bit of a breakout, more so at a volume than like he's going to do it in a Brock Bowers way in terms of we all hate the offense and he's got no quarterbacks, what we just saw out of Brock Bowers, than being Laporta and having fucking like 10 touchdowns and being on this amazing offense. Like, so I'm more looking at the Brock Bowers mold, not saying he is Brock Bowers, but that's my like key of finding the guy that might be the value as a rookie tight end this year. It's more in the mold of him than, say, Loveland, because I just think Loveland's behind too many guys. So it's me taking my shot. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, and I'm not saying I'm going to go draft Warren everywhere. I'm just saying I've got some interest in him because if he's all of a sudden the one on his team, that's where you get production out of a tight end.
Mate, we've got one last spot I wanted to throw a little bit of light, and oh my God, we've taken all night to talk about the number one pick in the NFL draft at a position that's fantasy relevant. But my question to you is, Cam Ward goes to the Tennessee Titans and his good-looking prospect. What do we do with him in fantasy? Are we talking about him in one quarterback? Are we talking about him in two quarterback? What are the settings that we need to talk about Cam Ward?
Definitely not one quarterback. Like, I wouldn't even see him going an Astro in the top 16. It's one of these ones as a fan, I'm excited. I definitely started during the process, really. I think the Titans almost went on the same path as I did, where it was like, I really think we should trade back. Like, I really think, like, this might not be the year to start quarterback. We've got so many issues and, we really should try and take a package, blah, blah, blah. But the more I sort of watched tape and the more I saw the stats of his last year and, he didn't exactly have amazing guys to pass to. He didn't have an amazing O-line, which he's probably going to deal with again at the Titans. It's one of these things that it felt to me like kind of special what he was able to do, and it made me more excited as a fan that they kind of came to the same conclusion around the same time I did and kind of announced it and said, no, we've got our guy, like we're not taking calls anymore. And so as a fan, I'm excited about him in real NFL. In fantasy, look, he doesn't have the most amazing, Calvin Ridley's going to be his one, and the hope is that they have a pretty good connection straight away. That number 2 spot is just so open. Like, it's just a gaping arsehole. Like, it's like Restrepo might just go straight into number 2, who was an unrestricted.
What did Treylon Burks do to you?
Oh, hey, what did he do to everyone? Like,
what did he even do? Maybe that's the question.
I know what he did to John Robinson. He put him on. He put him in welfare. I don't know exactly what he's even got behind Calvin Ridley. This side, like Van Jefferson, and it's just a bit
of a van, man.
Yeah, it's honestly a bunch of draft picks that we're obviously hoping hit. So, yeah, I don't see it being a real fruitful fantasy year for Cam Ward. It's just going to be one of these ones that could be a bit of a process. The hope is honestly that they take a bit of a year 2 leap even in the O-line, that they've sort of been building it over the last 3 years, and the hope is that some of those guys have just kept getting better and better. Obviously, having Callahan as the O-line coach, often teams take a leap with their O-line in the second year, so the hope is that they can protect him a bit better than they ever protected Levis, and Levis had his own fucking issues and just couldn't read any pressure at all. So, apparently. Outside of fucking coffees and, fucking, putting mayo and fucking banana peels in there. But I just think in general, just as an overview, I don't think Cam Ward's going to be very relevant for fantasy. Honestly, even in 2 quarterback leagues, You could take him at the end if you're in a 12-teamer, like taking 24 quarterbacks. Could you take a shot on him at the end? Maybe, but there's probably some guys around that end of 24 that I probably would take a shot on even before him for a rookie quarterback going to a team that's still in a full rebuild.
He is probably going to be as good in terms of like NFL value as Russell Wilson as a starting quarterback. But the problem is he probably doesn't have the stuff around him because Russell Wilson was like a 3rd-round pick. And the Seahawks have brought in Matt Flynn after he had that like massive, like 5-touchdown game in week 17 the year before for the Packers. And Russell Wilson is a 3rd-round pick when they weren't really thinking about quarterback because they brought in Matt Flynn thinking he was going to be the starter, then usurped Matt Flynn, and they got this like great return from a 3rd-round quarterback. This guy's 101. This is a team that's got more problems than just a quarterback. So I'm just hoping to heck for Titans fans that he doesn't get murdered in his first year. Because when you're the 101 quarterback, you're getting the least help you've ever had in your life.
Yep.
You are now married to a team that I guess most people would not want to go to because they've got the least going for them, and you're married to them for 6 years. It's the 4 years of your rookie contract. It's a 5th-year option and a franchise tag. Kirk Cousins got franchise tags twice, and he ended up with the Washington side for far longer than he deserved. But it's such a problem with the way that a quarterback winds up in a position like this, because if you're really good, you get cursed by having to go to the worst place ever. And I just hope for Cam Ward, because I really like him. And as much as I hate Tennessee, he's the right guy. It bothers me that he's the right guy. It's like when McNair went there, you go, this is going to work. It's going to work. And it did. So it bothers me.
Stop. Yeah, you don't want to bring a good quarterback into the division.
No. And when Andrew Luck went to the Colts, I'm like, well, we're fucked again. We had 12 years of Peyton Manning and now this. So it's I don't know. I kind of feel worried about Ward in a way. I'm never worried about Levis as a fan in the division, but that's an NFL conversation we should probably take to G'day Gridiron. Hey, Tay, we got through all these guys. We talked for much longer than we'd hoped, but
absolutely.
I actually don't. I don't particularly care because I think we worked really hard on the fantasy angle. We were very tidy on the fantasy angle, and there were about 4 different times tonight where I'm like, this is why this podcast exists, is because not only do we talk about these things, but you particularly took it to a whole different level with a player, and it's the value of having you on this podcast, mate.
I think in a way it's the value of almost not doing so much research. Like I said to you, I was looking into it and I was like, oh, do I try and bring some stats of these teams that these guys are going to? And I'm like, you know what? No, like I'm just going to go off the cuff and just sort of do my gut feeling about where these guys have gone and how I think it's going to not only affect them, but the guys around them that they're going to. And like I said, we brought up running backs that had incumbents that we were worried about their landing spot also because of that, or guys that turned up at teams that didn't have one, and that's why we're a little bit excited, or teams that have coaches that have, done arsehole roulettes. Like, it's anything comes out of their mouth, and it's better off the cuff like that because it's good to get a gut feel of guys right now, because it's not like in 2 or 3 months' time when we're really getting the nitty-gritty and really working out our rankings and doing everything, that's when the stats matter, and that's when we're going to want to hear them. Now is the time for just gut feel and how you feel about a guy right now, because you're not married to that comment really till later anyway. So I just think this is good timing, and it was perfect just to have a chat and just, like I said, I kind of almost come up with little bits and like little nuggets and stuff as I'm thinking about these guys, about, talking about Ibuka and just like working out if Godwin's not all of a sudden, healthy. That's when you target a guy like that. Like that stuff sort of comes to you on the fly just from sort of working it out in your head. So I kind of enjoyed doing that tonight.
Yeah, but to me, that's like a big moment in the podcast. I'm like, this is 100% why you're the right person to talk about these things with, and why you're, I don't know. I say every week when we open the show, Australia's best fantasy analyst. But then you go and do things like that, and I go, well, I'm not wrong when I say that at the start of the show. So thank you so much for all the insight you bring. And we will double back and we will start to put the rubber on the road in the next couple of weeks, because by the end of this month, or potentially early in the next month, we are going to be hitting the mock draft circuit, Tay.
Can't wait, mate. Like I said, in our first couple of pods this year, I've brought up that I want to see ADPs, and obviously, an early mock draft isn't going to give you the exact ADP because things are going to change as camp report stuff come out. But at least it's an idea on what people are thinking out there on Sleeper at the moment. So at least it's going to give you a rough idea on guys that we're going to be super high on, and guys that we've talked about and gone, oh shit, they're actually a lot lower, or they're a lot higher than we thought they were going to be. So that'll be really interesting.
And again, you can find us, Aussie Gridiron Network, Aussie NFL Fantasy. Find the mothership too. It's Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. We've got great new merch up there too. And keep your eye out there too. That's where we're going to have promotions around how you get involved with tipping competitions, with fantasy competitions, and how you can get free merch. You're also going to see all the cool stuff we do with Australian Gridiron. Taylor, thank you again. I'm going to let you go home and get a good sleep. Mate, I need to go as well. It's pretty late at night for an old bloke like me on a school night. Hooroo.
Hooroo. Anyone hitting up the casino, good luck at Arsehole Roulette. Thank you.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
It kind of forces us deeper into the Phillip Rivers ball bag, or the Tyreek ball bag these days, I guess.
With the theme of the episode, Matty, could be the Wilt Chamberlain ball bag too.
Fantasy Wilt Chamberlain, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, hopefully without the STDs, of course.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Aussie?
So if they'd realised this earlier, we could have been pegging you back rather than just you pegging us.
NFL?
It just hasn't been there this year. It just doesn't have hands.
You're my handcuff now, eh?
Oh, yeah, handcuff, mate.
Fantasy.
Don't be a Brenton stranger and give us a follow.
You're tossing 2 tight ends and 2 quarterbacks. How many hands do you have?
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Cole Komet.
Cole Komet calf.
I feel like a twoies, but